Hello subscribers and non-subscribers. This is just going to be a relatively quick video that is meant to explain to you guys that don't follow me on social media, more so Google Plus, because that's usually where I'm pretty much guaranteed to post on Google Plus. Twitter is a little bit iffy as to whether or not I'll actually post there, and usually there it's just a link to my Google Plus post. So but nonetheless, like I said, this video is meant to explain to you guys why I didn't upload on the 17th, 20th, and 21st of July. And the reason for that is simply that the external hard drive that I used pretty much died on me. So I'll sort of go back to the beginning. So Thursday night, I told the American Civil War mod for Empire Total War to render out. Friday morning, when I checked it, it had, if I recall correctly, that one was a lot of flickering. And so I was like, no, I'd rather be able to actually do something on my computer, because when I'm rendering out videos, I can't really use my computer much, because rendering it out basically takes up all my system resources. More so CPU than anything else, but nonetheless, it's just that it takes up basically all my resources, so I can't really do anything. So I decided I'm not going to go and bother uploading Friday. I'll just go ahead and do it Saturday then, because I'd like to be able to actually use my computer Friday. So Friday night I told it to render out, just like I did Thursday night, and I checked it Saturday morning. Saturday morning, however, it, if I recall correctly, was basically just a black screen for pretty much the entire video. And so I ended up figuring out that the external hard drive had pretty much died, so I also went ahead and bought a internal hard drive. In that case, I bought a, well, I guess not that case as if it's some other scenario, but in this case I ended up going out and I went to Amazon and bought a 3 terabyte Western Digital Black, an internal hard drive. The reason why I went with that was mostly just because that's what my current hard drive that's already in my system is. However, the one in my system is a 1 terabyte rather than a 3 terabyte. So now I've got 4 terabytes, although the 3 terabyte is only going to be for essentially things that I use for my recordings. So it's not really going to, it might carry some games, some of the larger ones, but for the most part it's basically going to be thumbnails and videos. But the reason, so that I didn't need to buy that because the external hard drive died. Once I started, and that arrived Saturday night, like a little bit before 9, simply because I have Amazon Prime, and with Amazon Prime, and for me it's only $50 since I'm a student, or $50 a year since I'm a student. I went with their free same-day shipping because in my area I have that, and since I'm Prime it's free, so I said screw it, why not, we'll see if it arrives Saturday. It ended up arriving Saturday. I didn't originally plan to install it if it was going to arrive relatively late, but once it ended up arriving I decided, you know what, screw it, I'm going to go ahead and do that just so that I already have it. And so I went ahead and did that, installed it, and started copying data off the external hard drive because it was still somewhat alive, but you couldn't really do anything with it. But I ended up running into an error constantly that said something to the effect of can't read source file or disk. Now, from my Google searches, usually that can be fixed with hopefully be fixed with a check disk. However, my external hard drive was incapable of going through an entire check disk. It would just go, and if I told it to do that, it would start squealing, squeaking, clicking, grinding, basically all the traditional sounds of hard drive failure. And so because I can't go through the check disk, I said, well, let's see if doing a quick format will allow it to at least survive long enough for me to get the more important data off of it. And I made sure that the check mark was there for quick format. Windows, in all of its glorious wisdom, decided that it was going to do a full format and wiped out all the data on the drive. So I ended up Saturday night into Monday morning having, I think it was Easy US run to try to recover that data. That didn't really work out. Well, one, because you're limited to a gigabyte with the free version of that, and I sure as hell wasn't going to go and buy the thing, especially if I'm not sure as to how good of a job it's going to do getting the data, so no thanks. And Rikuva was going to take far too long to be able to really go and copy any of the data off. It was going upwards of like 13 days, and while I understand that it's a 3 terabyte hard drive, I still don't feel as though 13 days or more is really worth my time just to maybe get some data back. So I ended up eventually, so I basically just sort of on and off kept doing that until Thursday, when, so the 21st, and essentially the 21st, I said, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to go ahead and basically try to get myself the important data that I needed, which is pretty much just the thumbnails. So, and when I say get the important data, I basically mean I went ahead and manually got myself back to where I needed to be, not so much where I was, because it's not really possible for me to get back to where I was, but I can at least get back to where I need to be, which is having the thumbnails for the current series that are ongoing, and I'll just have to find some other way of getting where I need to be, or getting some of the other data that I essentially use in the future, because a lot of the thumbnails I had were not series that were currently ongoing, but rather series that I wished to do potentially in the near future. I say near future, it's not really true, but to at some point do in the future. So those were kind of helpful for when I would finally get around to doing those. But of course, because Windows decided to do that full format, even though I told it to do a quick format, and the error that I encountered and it not being worth my time to try to go and have data recovery software go through that, and hardware recovery is far too expensive for my taste. So I'm just gonna have to, when those series come around, I'll just have to get the thumbnails for them rather than being able to just go ahead and have the stored ones. But I think to a degree, at least with the thumbnails, it could have potentially have come out for the better somewhat, depending on what you consider better. What I mean by that is, I think personally, at least to a degree, it's, for some series at least, for like Empire Total War, or for the American Civil War mod for Empire Total War, I think it's kind of come out for the better, because it's actually got some filters and whatnot too, which just makes the images look a little bit more unique. Maybe not necessarily better, because better is very subjective, but it does have a little bit more work put into them now. But again, whether or not you think it's better is really kind of up to you. But you guys saw some of them back there, and I just kind of have all the thumbnails that I currently already have sort of in a loop for this video, because I'm not quite sure as to how long this video is going to be, so I just kind of had them play on a loop until I'm done. But I'm going to go and actually cut this off basically right now. But so yeah, that's what ended up happening. The external hard drive basically died on me when I tried to copy data. I had issues, so I told Windows to do a quick format. Windows decided to do a full format, and I basically just spent a couple days trying to see if at all maybe I could possibly get some data off. None of them really came out successfully, so I eventually gave up, and that was that. So yeah, but of course, as I said at the beginning, this video is more so for you guys that don't follow me on social media, because at least on my social media I made some attempts to at least convey that I was having hardware issues, but I didn't really want to go into detail too much because, well, for one thing, I didn't necessarily have all the details at the time. So I basically just sort of hinted at, yeah, I'm having some hard drive issues, so I'm not going to be able to do this or that. And so, as I said, this video is more so for you people that don't follow me on social media. I will, as always, advise that you do follow me on social media. At the very least on Google+, because Google+ is usually where I go first to post, and it's also got less of the more spammy things that I sometimes post on social media, more so because of giveaways and whatnot. But yeah, as I said, that's that. So as always, like, favorite, comment, subscribe, share, and I will see you guys tomorrow for Altu Sturmovik 1946. But until then, goodbye and farewell.